The status quo is not sustainable. It's keeping people trapped in poverty. It's ruining the environment. It's keeping children from getting an education. Some people are having to immigrate because they just can't make it where they are. That's the status quo of coffee. We can't let that stand. We got to change it. Since BNS of 2023, we've been to
Chiapas, Honduras, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Costa Rica, Panama, Brazil, Burundi, Zambia, Mozambique, South Africa, back to Nicaragua, and then we went back to Honduras.
For our partner farms, we've been coming back for years now.
And we can see physical improvements to the farm, confidence going up, pride manifesting everywhere.
Take Nicaragua, for instance. When we first got there, they were struggling to keep their heads above water.
They've regenerated the farm. They've planted 700,000 new plants. Their goal is 1 million pounds by 2026, 2027.
They're continuously improving because they can. And the joy that that brings the people who are on that farm, you can just feel it, it's palpable. The first time we met the small producers in Chiapas, everybody was like this. Yeah. We'll see about you. And now when we walk in, it's like walking into a family reunion. I mean, the lightness, the joy. And you hear people talking about things they're planning on doing. For instance, Miguel is gonna put a foundation in for a new house for his family. Solomon wants to build a school. He can dream about these things because he knows we're still gonna be there 5 years from now.
The other thing that happens is other people start showing up because they can't believe that what is happening is true. There was a tremendous amount of appreciation, commitment to quality. We heard people committing to expanding their lots because they know now that those acres will produce hard currency for them.
We are very, very grateful that Jorge Ferre is on board now.
And we have a new team member, and I don't know if anybody remembers from last year, the sort of rock star that was here named Juana Chapoya.
Juana Chapoya is our fourth team member. Juana's going to be working with our prospects in Africa for us.
We have a lot of people on deck right now, but one of the most promising ones is in Mozambique at Gorongosa. From a people, planet, community perspective, it's a grand slam.
We were at PRF this year in Guatemala, specifically to find new prospects. We had an opportunity to talk to large groups of people, all of the partners together, and we met a lot of people.
I think it's worth mentioning Sierra Leone. We've made a 10-year commitment to Cadiz.
She has purchased land for her model farm. She is in the process of hunting down seedlings. She's working pretty closely with Juana and with Jorge to make sure she gets the right start to her coffee.
There's sort of a sparkle of an opportunity that's in Burundi. Burundi is well known for its high quality coffee, and we finally got our first visit. We're planning a second visit.
The producers, our partners, are doing the heavy lifting of changing the world.
It's not charity, right? The benefit that we receive is stable supply of coffee, and we get that at a stable price. The impact we're having out there is on both poverty and climate change. We're having a massive impact on both those things. Of course, we have to keep going.
The franchisees and their staffs are changing the world by selling that coffee one cup at a time.
There is nothing that can get you out of bed in the morning more than knowing that you're having impact through your purchases all over the world.
Please welcome to the stage Bob and Michelle Fish.
Oh, baby, there ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, baby.
Good morning, Big V Nation, and welcome to day 2 of BNS 2024. Yay! We are so happy to be here.
Hey, listen, before we get started, I always do this, but again, Michelle and I want to let you know what amazing people you are. Not only are you changing lives in your stores and in your communities, but you're changing lives all over the world. The impact you're having is extraordinary. Thank you. Hey, listen, we all know the coffee supply is under threat. And the two major culprits of that shortage are climate change and the supply-demand nature of the C contract that creates unreliable boom and bust for coffee producers. Both events are causing coffee producers to abandon their farms, leaving less coffee for a growing population. The Bigby solution, through One Big Island in Space, is to build farm-direct relationships that can guarantee a reliable supply of coffee with stable prices. By eliminating the middleman and pushing the savings down to the farmer, making them economically viable. Farm Direct means we have complete traceability of our product, a higher ethical standard, a higher environmental standard, and we know that communities are well served. And although we always refer to stable prices and reliable supply as a competitive advantage, the real advantage, the competitive moat that we are building, is in fact trust with the consumer. Sure, other concepts say they're doing what we're doing, but we all know they are just social washing or greenwashing and fair washing, otherwise known as lying to the consumer. There hasn't been any coffee company of scale in our industry to challenge that truth or lack of it, but Obis will. Now that we're at the 50% mark, we will come out swinging and teach the consumer that we are a brand to trust. In fact, with our work, we feel that competitors will be forced by the consumer to admit that they have been serving the tears of children in every cup, little droplets of insecticide and pesticide in every sip, and that they have been a major contributor to our border problems. They will have to admit that they have been the problem while pretending to be a solution. They will have to admit that they've lied, and that will be a violation of trust with their consumer. Trust and integrity with the consumer will be our secret weapon, our competitive moat. Obis is here to lead the way, to be the standard, to be the example of transparent, ethical, and responsible capitalism. You can rely and depend on us. You know, we began this mission 6 years ago, and to date, we have 4 farm direct relationships, one with Living Hope in Zambia, one with El Recreo in Nicaragua, one with Finca La Fortaleza in Mexico, and now also with Finca Tea in Honduras. We have 18 producers in the room with us today, and we hope that you take the time to meet them all and get those signatures. Perhaps you follow our travels, and so you would know that we are continuously visiting farms and building relationships, most recently in Mozambique, Guatemala, and Burundi, all likely to be farm direct partners. Unfortunately, we will be sunsetting our relationship with Living Hope by the end of 2025 as they continue to move away from our values of people, planet, and community. But, and with excitement, Mozambique will most likely replace them as our 4th partner. Finally, you can proudly know that since the inception of the Farm Direct program, you have sold or served nearly 3 million pounds of Farm Direct coffee. It's really incredible.
So you've been hearing all about our newest, most powerful storytelling tool yet in our arsenal. It's our video docuseries we call Field Notes that tell the story of the work our remarkable partners are doing in a way that's meant to create an emotional connection and make you very, very proud of the coffee that you serve in your stores every day. It's having an impact in the world, people. Farm Direct is going to be the answer to improving lives in coffee country. On each of your tables, you're going to find a postcard that has a QR code on it that will take you to the world premiere episode that debuted yesterday. It's about our featured partnership, Finca La Fortaleza, and how Maria Esther and Pascual Castillo are literally changing the world for small producers in Chiapas. We encourage you to go watch it and subscribe to the channel, please, so that you never miss an episode. So, why are small producers so important to coffee? About 60% of the world's coffee is grown by people who have less than 12 acres. And in our experience, many of them have a lot less than that. And if you want to change the lives in coffee country, you have to reach those small producers. But until we met Maria Esther and Pascual, we didn't know how to do it. We didn't even know how to find them. But today, we're going to give you a sneak peek at a not yet released Field Notes, highlighting one of the small producers from our partnership with La Fortaleza and who is here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Miguel Angel Cruz.
Let's roll the video.
When my husband Bob gives his presentation on what makes a successful entrepreneur, he always leads with the 3 Ds: desire, dedication, and dependability. Anyone that wants to be in business for themselves probably has plenty of desire. Dedication, as Bob defines it, is a steadfast, adherent commitment to bringing that business idea to life. But perhaps the hardest D is dependability. It's about living up to your word every day and always being there, especially when the going gets tough. We could all learn a thing or two about the 3 Ds from Miguel Angel Cruz. I'm Michelle Fish. My husband, Bob, is the co-CEO of one of the largest coffee shop chains in the United States. And together, we are the founders of One Big Island in Space. We're on a mission to change the way coffee is bought and sold around the world. We've been traveling the globe looking for millions of pounds of coffee from producers that are doing the right thing for their people, for the planet, and for their communities. When we find them, we connect them to a marketplace of buyers that will pay them the right price for their coffee, now and for years to come. It's a model that is beyond fair trade and beyond USDA organic. We call it Farm Direct. Our visits don't always work out, but we won't stop going until we can put a name, a face, and a place on every cup of coffee we serve. Miguel Angel Cruz is one of the small producers whose coffee we buy through our partnership with Pascual Castillo and Maria Esther Sot from Finca La Fortaleza. For generations, his family has been farming their land on a steep, fertile mountainside that is remote and hard to get to, even by Chiapas standards. It's the Cruz family legacy. When Miguel and his brother came of age, their father gave his brother a hectare of the family's precious land for coffee farming. But Miguel, though he was equally loved, only received half a hectare, and it was decided that he, alone among his siblings, would pursue a higher education. But then the price of coffee on international markets fell to historic lows. There just wasn't enough money for Miguel to continue. He had no choice but to come home and work his half hectare of coffee. But it wasn't enough to sustain him. So Miguel sought work in the United States. He applied for a worker visa, and in 2004 he got one. He worked a variety of jobs in agriculture, but his heart was back in Chiapas with Rosa, his girlfriend since middle school. By 2009, coffee prices had risen from record lows, and he had managed to save some money. It seemed that the moment had finally come to head home and build a life with Rosa on the farm. Miguel returned to Chiapas, and, as luck would have it, one of the first people he met was Pascual Castillo. Pascual had a reputation for being exceedingly fair and was full of good advice about how to improve yields and quality. They became fast friends. With time and a lot of desire, dedication, and dependability, Miguel was eventually able to buy more land, and by 2014, he had grown his farm from half a hectare to 3. The future was bright. And then came Roya, also known as rust. First, the leaves on his plants turned an orange color and fell to the ground. Then the fruit withered. Then the plants died. He lost everything he had worked for over the course of just 40 days. In the end, he and every coffee farmer in his community were left with nothing. But then Pascual Castillo, a man who knows a thing or two about the 3Ds himself, showed up on his doorstep with an offer. He promised work, new rust-resistant seedlings, and training. In return, Miguel would help transform Pascual's cattle ranch into a coffee farm as a laboratory to show the small producers in Chiapas that coffee could thrive again. Miguel talked it over with Rosa. His friends were skeptical that Pascual's vision could work. But he decided to take the leap, and he threw himself into the task. For 3 years, every Monday through Saturday, a truck would show up in the village at 4 a.m. Miguel and several of his neighbors would make the 2-hour trip down the mountain to do the seemingly impossible manual labor of transforming the trampled, deforested cattle land of Finca La Fortaleza into the vibrant coffee farm it is today. They helped build a nursery for the rust-resistant seedlings and learned how to care for and propagate new plants. Pascual provided Miguel with 25,000 rust-resistant seedlings to start a community nursery in Mahasil. With the help of one of his friends, they turned those 25,000 plants into 50,000 and began to distribute them along with training on the new agronomy. After working all day with Pascual, Miguel would head home to work in his own fields. Gradually, as more of his neighbors began to see the new coffee thriving in his fields, they asked Miguel for help in reestablishing their own coffee production. So, in addition to the work he was doing for Pascual and on his own farm, he stepped up to the responsibility of helping his neighbors. All told, Miguel's nursery provided seedlings to almost 500 families. These days, once again, people can make a living in coffee.
Voy a echarle muchas ganas la parte que me corresponde, cultivar la tierra. Es lo que sé hacer y me gusta hacerlo.
So he's like very thankful for Pascual's family, for his wife, him, and yourself, that giving him this opportunity to join this mission, and that he's going to do his part in making sure that you receive a quality coffee from his side. That's the passion that they have.
Gracias.
Since last year, Bigby Coffee has been buying Miguel's coffee through our Farm Direct partnership with Finca La Fortaleza. For the first time in his coffee farming career, Miguel knows that he will sell his coffee this year and in the years to come at a fair price that is based on the economics of his farm, not on the vagaries of the international market. Desire, dedication, and dependability. Today, Miguel is hard at work on one of his biggest desires, a house for his family. He's ready to break ground for the foundation this year. One thing we know, if Miguel says he's going to get it done, you can depend on him to see it through.
desire, dedication, dependability. Thank you, Miguel.
A name, a face, and a place for every cup of coffee you serve. When you boil down the work that we do in Obis, it really comes down to that. We go boots on the ground, looking for producers that share our values around people, planet, and community. And we form lifetime relationships with them, buying their coffee at a fair, sustainable price. We cross-pollinate best practices between our partners and our prospects through FarmShare. And then we come full circle by bringing our partners here to spend time with you at BNS. You know, it's really hard to believe that we've been at this for 6 years now, but there is so much more good stuff to come. Part of what makes our progress possible is the amazing additions that we've been able to make to our team. Last year, Jorge Ferre came on board full-time as our Director of Sustainable Farming and Quality Assurance. And this year, as you've heard, it gives me great pleasure to announce our 4th Obis team member, Juana Chapoya, formerly of the Living Hope Coffee Project. Juana now works for Obis as our Manager of Sustainable Farming and Quality Assurance for Africa. Yay, Juana! In that role, he's going to be helping us to find and pre-vet prospects, as well as being our boots on the ground and working with projects that are important to Obis, like the work that Kariatu Ali is up to in Sierra Leone. So thank you for welcoming Juana. We're so glad he's here. Okay, that's enough talking. Back to the sneak peeks of Field Notes. I am excited to introduce you to another one of our small producers that are here with us today, Solomon de Meza.
Let's roll.
Solomon de Meza is a second-generation coffee farmer, the only boy of 9 children. He learned at the feet of his father, Sebastian, who decides what tasks to do in his fields based on the phases of the moon. But Solomon has a science brain, and Pascual Castillo, Maria Esther Salt, and their team of agronomists from Finca La Fortaleza have been preaching the wisdom of soil sampling and regular fertilization to make sure the coffee is getting the nutrients it needs to produce the most bountiful crop. Sebastian favors letting God take care of the details. So Solomon decided to put the 2 methods to the test. I'm Michelle Fish. My husband, Bob, is the co-CEO of one of the largest coffee shop chains in the United States. And together, we are the founders of One Big Island in Space. We're on a mission to change the way coffee is bought and sold around the world. We've been traveling the globe looking for millions of pounds of coffee from producers that are doing the right thing for their people, for the planet, and for their communities. When we find them, we connect them to a marketplace of buyers that will pay them the right price for their coffee, now and for years to come. It's a model that is beyond fair trade and beyond USDA organic. We call it Farm Direct. Our visits don't always work out, but we won't stop going until we can put a name, a face, and a place on every cup of coffee we serve. Solomon's father, Sebastian, is the town character, a larger-than-life personality, always hustling donations for various grand visions. His most fervent wish is that his children will grant him enough descendants to start a colony where he will be king. You might think I'm making that up, but I assure you, I have the quotes from the notes I took in the field. Solomon has a quieter, more self-effacing approach to life, to family, and to coffee. He was part of the team that helped convert La Fortaleza from a treeless cattle farm to a vibrant, forested ecosystem where coffee thrives. In return, La Fortaleza provided seedlings and guidance to get small producers like Sebastian back up on their feet after an epidemic of roya or rust wiped out crops in Chiapas. And as Sebastian began to recover, he granted his only son a small parcel of land to start his own coffee farm. Sebastian has always preached that his children should follow in his footsteps and do exactly as he does to be on the right path in life. I wondered how a quiet, seemingly shy young man could possibly find his way out of his father's formidable shadow. That's why Solomon's experiment is particularly interesting. With one of the Catimor seedlings he received from La Fortaleza 3 years ago, he is doing exactly as Pascual and his team suggest. With the balance of the field, he is using his own judgment, a mixture of Pascual's knowledge and his father's homespun farmer's almanac wisdom, and he is measuring the difference. And oh, what a difference! While his coffee plants are generally doing well, the one that received 4 fertilizations and was pruned and tended according to La Fortaleza's guidance is thriving. Looking at the branches, the upcoming harvest on this one plant will be about double what he's getting from the balance of his crop. Bigger yields per plant mean a better future for his children. His mind is made up. Science is the way to go. Actually, the experiment was never just about him. Solomon is a quiet type of leader. When he and his dad knocked on Pascual's door to ask for help, and they got it, he knew that it was his obligation to pay it forward. So as the family farm began to recover, he helped his neighbors convert their land back to coffee, connected them with La Fortaleza for new seedlings, and shared everything he learned about the new ways of farming coffee to help combat roya. The experiment he ran on his field is another example of his leadership style. While he wanted to know the answer definitively for himself, he wanted his neighbors to see the difference that a science-based approach could make in their crops and their economic futures.
It's like one of the things that he has experienced with their relationship with La Fortaleza. The reason why this family have supported them, it has been because they have seen his hard work and that he delivers, right? And that he hopes that that's going to be the same case with you guys.
For sure.
And that's why he was chosen as one of the 4 small producers in our Opus partnership with Pascual Castillo and Maria Esther Salt. It's never been about his own trajectory. Solomon does what he does for his family and his community. Although his coffee farm is currently small, he has his eyes on a couple of pieces of adjacent cattle land that could double its size. And he has the knowledge, the work ethic, and the vision to make it a thriving business that will provide a great education for his children and inspire his community to bigger and better things. The sustainable price he is receiving for his coffee through his partnership with Obis is the engine that will get him there.
Salomon!
This truly is a thrilling moment for Obis. Being at the 50% Farm Direct mark means that it's time for us to pick up the megaphone and start shouting from the rooftops about how you are changing the world, one cup of coffee at a time. This year, as you can see, we're featuring our partnership with Finca La Fortaleza, both here at B&S and in your stores with the launch of their delicious La Fortaleza coffee. And there's a bag of coffee for each of you at your table. I also encourage you to join us at 1:30 today for the screening of the documentary that we put together about La Fortaleza and the journey they were on. That's in room 260 down there. So if you haven't seen it yet, please make sure you do. We also just launched our Obis website that we believe will bring clarity and gravitas to the work that we're up to. And by now, you've all received the newest edition of our Farm Direct calendar, putting a, say it with me, name, a face, and a place on every cup of coffee you serve. And of course, we have our field notes. So let's get back to it with another sneak peek. I'm excited to introduce you to our third small producer here with us today, Marta Vasquez from the Tumbala region of Chiapas.
Let's roll.
It's about a 1-mile walk from Marta Vasquez's house to the parcel of land she farms with the help of her husband, Francisco. Now, I say walk, but what I really mean is climb. The narrow path up is steep and very, very slippery. She makes this walk at least 2 times a day, after she gets her children ready for school and then again to prepare lunch for the family. If she's really in a hurry, she can do it in 12 minutes. She's tough and she's fearless, but she'd have to be to have achieved all that she has. I'm Michelle Fish. My husband, Bob, is the co-CEO of one of the largest coffee shop chains in the United States. And together, we are the founders of One Big Island in Space. We're on a mission to change the way coffee is bought and sold around the world. We've been traveling the globe looking for millions of pounds of coffee from producers that are doing the right thing for their people, for the planet, and for their communities. When we find them, we connect them to a marketplace of buyers that will pay them the right price for their coffee, now and for years to come. It's a model that is beyond fair trade and beyond USDA organic. We call it Farm Direct. Our visits don't always work out, but we won't stop going until we can put a name, a face, and a place on every cup of coffee we serve. Marta Vasquez lives in a remote, tightly knit community known as Esperanza Morrison in the Tumbala region of Chiapas. In her village, very little Spanish is spoken by anyone over the age of 30. Marta leads us up the steep path to her fields, and at times, I wasn't sure I could make it. Marta is justifiably proud of her land and her coffee. The setting is gobsmackingly beautiful. A lush, tropical forest with sounds of birds and water in the distance. You just have to watch out for those super deep caves. Marta's plants are healthy and thriving. She took obvious delight in showing us around, telling us about her plans for new plantings and better pruning. Coffee is the community's primary economic opportunity, but the small parcels are far from the infrastructure needed to get their crop to market. For most of her years producing coffee, Marta has been forced to rely on the subpar prices paid by coyotes, middlemen who show up in a pickup truck during harvest and pay cash for the day's crop, often at a price well below what it cost the producer to grow the coffee in the first place. But the farmers need cash to feed their families, and nobody else is showing up to buy. Marta and her husband, Francisco, have 3 children. While we walked her land, I asked about her dreams for the children, and it's the one time she hitched a little.
For every kid in the community, it's to have an opportunity to study and to experience a world outside this too.
As we walked back down the long trail to town, Marta told us she would have liked to have pursued an advanced education, but it wasn't economically available to her as a child. She wants to change the fortunes of her town so that every child has the ability to follow a dream for themselves. Maybe that's why Marta wouldn't settle for selling her coffee to the coyotes. A while back, she heard about Maria Esther and Pascual Castillo and the work they were doing at Finca La Fortaleza. So she figured out how to get herself to the town of Chilon, about a 4-hour drive away, with a sample of her coffee. She parked herself in Pascual's office and waited, refusing to leave without seeing him. Eventually, she got her chance. She told him that her community grew the best coffee in the world and that he would want to buy it once he had tasted it. There was something about her intensity and her confidence that intrigued him. So he roasted up her sample and gave it a try. It didn't go quite the way she planned. Although he could taste potential in the sample, he could also taste defects caused by the way the coffee was picked and processed. He knew that not all of the beans were picked at their peak moment of ripeness, and he knew that the moldy overtones came from drying the coffee in the moist Chiapas air. But he decided to make a deal with her anyway. He would send one of Finca La Fortaleza's advisors to her community to provide the technical expertise and improve her agronomy and processing techniques. And if she took the necessary steps to improve the quality of her coffee, he would buy it.
Here it's Marta Vasquez, Tumbala. So they keep record of every single time that they go out from every single time.
In the years since, Marta has been implementing and sharing the technical advice she received from Pascual and Maria Esther, and the quality of her community's coffee has improved dramatically.
She wants to be an example for other people here in the community, to let them know that they can make it through coffee, but that they have to do some effort for it, but it is possible.
But not everyone is open to change. The promise of higher prices has often failed to materialize. Investing in promises just risks too much heartbreak. Thanks to her vision and hard work, Marta is now the lead producer in her community. In fact, when we returned to town, Marta surprised us by convening a meeting of all of the producers in her area. They came to ask us how they could all be included in the partnership.
We are grateful and humbled to be in your presence and that you took the time to be here today.
In a culture where women are typically constrained in traditional roles, Marta is unequivocally in charge. She is the quality control person. She makes sure that her neighbors follow the proper practices, and she handles the money, making disbursements based on every individual's production.
They really expect, first of all, not to let you down and to present the quality that they know that they can provide, and that they're really excited about this process.
Fabulous. Would today's pickings be...
As our partnership grows, we will need more of the coffee from Marta's community. Hopefully, those that haven't engaged in improving their agronomy will see their neighbors receiving the benefits of higher prices and a guaranteed market. And it will inspire them to change so that they too can enjoy new economic prosperity. How many children's dreams might become possible? That's what drives Marta, and that's why we are so honored to be her partner.
Marta.
Okay, Jorge and Juana, you gotta bring it home. Let's introduce our Farm Direct partners to Bigby Nation.
From Nicaragua at El Recreo, please welcome Miriam and Hector Morales.
And Carlos Ferrer.
And from Honduras and Finca Terrerito, please welcome Ao and Leticia Lopez.
And Marcial Rivera and Lourdes Villera.
From Mozambique and Gorongosa, please welcome Camille de Brazil and Mishek Paya.
From Burundi, please welcome Janine Leoncima Arroyan.
And finally from Chiapas, Mexico and Finca La Fortaleza, please welcome Pascal Castillo and Maria Esther Sut.
And Pascual Castillo Saud. And Benjamin Gomez.
And finally the superstars, Marta Vasquez, Miguel Cruz and Solomon de Meza.
Sisters with me. We are family. Get up, everybody, and sing. Everyone can see we're together as we walk on by. And we fly just like birds of a feather. I won't tell no lie. All over say, can they be that close? Just let me state for the record, we're giving love.
You guys have a great rest of your summit. We'll see you at 1:30 for the Finca La Fortaleza movie screening.